Run it back, nation. What is good? Sorry for the delay there. We had some technical difficulties. Without a doubt, my name is DJ Eastwood. This is Run It Back Philly. This is my guy, Swipa Cam, Denver Nuggets content creator. And we're just going to talk about Embiid versus Jokic, what I think, what he thinks, and then we'll give our opinions on some other topics, and we'll just chop it up, and you guys can leave comments and give your perspective on things. So let's go ahead and do it, man. What's up, Swipa Cam? How you doing, Bo?
Well, man, it's been a great week of basketball. It's been a great start to the year in the NBA. There's a lot of great things happening around right now, and obviously, we're hoping all of us hoping for a resolution in Philadelphia sooner or later in that situation, man. Especially when you got a player playing as well as he is. So, yeah, man. Hey, man, I'm excited for you. You're my dog. Again, first and foremost, I want to pay respects to the man himself, man. You are one of the best to do it, man. Your channel is amazing. The content you put out is amazing. You got a dedicated fan base as well. I tune in myself. I'm in the comment section every so often when I can try to find time to watch the videos. And I think you do a great job. You've even offered me advice on stuff. Like, shout out to you, man. Shout out to your crew. Like I said, man, really take appreciated to the fact that you do what you do, bro. For real.
Thanks, bro. And I check out your stuff once in a while too. And it looks like you got some videos blowing up currently over there on the Denver Nuggets side of things. So yeah, man, shout out to you. Keep doing your thing. We'll just start with Jokic versus Embiid because obviously, I mean, the thing is, like, it's not going to be a heated argument. It's not going to be a super crazy debate or anything because but it's two players that are absolutely dominating the NBA. As far as I'm concerned, they're 1 and 2. The only argument should be between those two right now, especially with like the lack of supporting cast that each player has. But and also, like, obviously I watch Embiid every night, every single minute that he plays, and you watch Jokic every night, every single minute that he plays. So we're not gonna. You wouldn't say Embiid, and I probably wouldn't say Jokic. But the first thing I want to say is that last year I felt like Embiid edged him out before he got injured, and then once Embiid got injured and missed those like 20 games or whatever, it was pretty much over. This year, when we were like before we were about to come up here and do this, I'm like, all right, I know what I'm gonna say. I know what my points are gonna be for Embiid over Jokic. I know it, and I'm looking at all kinds of different stuff, and I'm like, man, they're so similar in their situations and like what they're doing right now, and they've both improved in certain areas. So honestly, I don't want to let the fans down. I'm not going to sit up here and yell about it. It's really a toss-up, two different types of players. I think Embiid's scoring dominance right now in the past like 15 games is out of this world. But yeah, just give me your thoughts on Jokic versus Embiid.
Well, number one, bro, I think it's always good to just get a perspective. I put on my Twitter, I basically put my players of the month up, and I put my right now I have Jokic and I have Embiid as the players of the month so far. Right now, Embiid's averaging during the month of January 33.8 points a game, 10.5 rebounds a game, 4.9 assists per game, 1.3 blocks a game. He's shooting 55, 36, 82. So I said this on a Spaces the other day and talking to some 76ers fans. One of the things that like people aren't really understanding about what's happening right now is like we are literally seeing somebody that is taking steps in his game that we haven't seen before from especially a big that's like this. He is shooting at a crazy efficiency right now. He's playing amazing defense. And the fact of the matter is he's dealing with a really tumultuous situation in Philadelphia right now. And so he's had to really overcome a lot of adversity. And I think the biggest thing is he's healthier in recent memory now than I've seen in a long time. So even last year, up to this point, I mean, last year he played 51 games, I think, in total. And so he missed 21 games. So far this season, I want to say he's played 34. And again, considering where we are in the season, a lot of that was because of COVID. So I think what it comes down to, man, like I really like that he's healthy now. I think that's always been the biggest thing with Embiid. He has less than half the games played as Jokic does. And, Jokic missed that whole first year when he was still playing in Serbia. And then ever since, it's just been really a test between the two. This is what I will say, though. I think the thing that about Embiid that maybe needs to be differentiated from Jokic is when I look at Embiid, I see Embiid as the play type of like Kobe Bryant or Hakeem Olajuwon. And the reason I say that is because when you look at Jokic and you look at Embiid, they're just completely different kinds of players. Jokic falls into more the archetype of LeBron James or Magic Johnson. Looking for a great scorer, an actual he's not historically dominant scorer, an efficient scorer. But the problem is that with Embiid, he kind of reminds me of Kobe Bryant. Like there's just certain points in the game where you give him the ball and it's just like, all right, bet. That's Kobe Bryant. Like, what you
Uh-huh.
gonna do about it? And I think with Embiid, it's the same thing. It's like you put him on the post. I don't care if you got Steven Adams. I don't care if you got Clint Capella. Whoever else it is. It doesn't matter. Number one, you're not isoing him one on one. But then number two, now because he's become a much better playmaker, he has the ability to ease you up a little bit. He's averaging 4.1 assists a game this year, which is a career high for him as well. So I think he's really leveled up across the board. And so I think he's just been like a really great player, man. And I'll say this, I mean this genuinely. I'm not even trying to be snazzy or nothing. I think the biggest thing about Embiid and the thing that maybe hurts him the most, and from a historical standpoint, is not just the injuries, but I'm being truthfully honest about this. I think it just so happens that Joel Embiid is playing during the Jokic era. And I think that kind of has been what has really caused a lot of the issues. And the reason I say that is because I don't think it's his fault, but I think even in the playoffs, the way that Jokic's been able to play and perform, in the playoffs, I think he's averaging like 26, 11, and 6, shooting basically 50, 40, and 86 in the playoffs and 43 career playoff games. He has a game winner over Rudy Gobert in a game 7. He just has had more opportunity. Played against the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. I think the fact of the matter is, again, he won that MVP last year, but that was one thing. But again, he's also been first team All NBA over Embiid the last couple of years as well. And I think that's just been the part of the issue. I think that if Jokic didn't exist, right now, I think it'd be clear cut. It wouldn't even be a conversation. Because I don't think.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I think if Anthony Davis was a part of that conversation, you remember ESPN last year tried to say he was the number 2 player in the world and all this other stuff. But Anthony Davis is not even touching Joel Embiid, not at all. And the reason is because Anthony not only is not durable, but also it's been proven that he cannot carry a team. And like I said, I don't think it's a matter of good or dominant. But when I say it's a Jokic era, it's just that he has been so good so far, starting off the 2020s. And again, maybe that changes over time. Maybe Embiid wins the MVP and that narrative can turn around this season, which, I think would be great for basketball. My biggest thing is right now, I would say that the 3 best players in the NBA are Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they're all from different places. None of them are American. So I think that speaks to the fact that the game is so global. And then the fact all of them are completely different players as well. So I know part of that was a little controversial, so I'd love to hear your feedback to that.
No, I think Jokic being able to do what he did in the playoffs and stuff, I think Joel Embiid has been hindered by the roster construction pretty much his entire career so far. And over there in Denver, they seem to have done the right thing, or at least known what to try to do from the jump. Whereas this is a big man that can control the game from the free throw line, from the elbow, from wherever. You got to put the right kind of players around him. And drafting Jamal Murray versus the Sixers drafting a Ben Simmons, who clearly doesn't help out the spacing for a guy like Joel Embiid. And then, even Tobias Harris, I don't think he's the best fit next to Joel Embiid. And this season, compared to when Ben Simmons was playing, whether or not the Sixers are better with or without Ben Simmons, because that's always an argument because of the defense that they lose from him being out in the transition game and things like that. But the spacing in the half court is so much better without Ben Simmons on the floor that Joel Embiid's having a career year right now. And I think that, if the roster was constructed the right way, his whole career, he would have had those opportunities maybe. So I think Jokic has benefited from roster construction versus where Joel Embiid's been working with a 6'10" point guard that stands under the basket. And he's had to, try to stretch his game out, play more on the perimeter because Ben's refusing to shoot just forever. That's what I think about that. But at the end of the day, they're both just ridiculous talents. Anytime I get to watch Jokic, they're usually late, 10 o'clock games over here. I know you're in Atlanta. I always think you're in Colorado. But yeah, anytime I get to watch Jokic, I like to watch him, and I respect the talent. I'm gonna give Joel Embiid the edge. Obviously, I'm a biased Sixers fan, but he's just so physically dominant and just last night, I know it was the Spurs. It's one of the worst teams in the NBA, but the Sixers were blowing another lead. They were up by 14. They blew it. They were down by, it was a 2-point game with 5 minutes left. Embiid comes back in the game, and it's just like he's one of those guys. You don't even run a play. You're absolutely right. He turns into like a 7-foot Kobe Bryant. Get out of the way. I'm scoring. And at his size, it's like there's almost absolutely nothing you can do. And right now, he's just on a tear. He would have, if he wouldn't have missed that one game where he was about to set the record for most 30-point games in a row as a Sixer, and he scored 25 because we were up by 25 points and he hardly played the fourth quarter. He would now have, he had 12 of the last 13 games over 30 points. He would have like 16 games in 16 30-point games in a row right now.
Yeah, look, I think he's great, and I think again he has been dominant. But like I said, I think, and again, I think this is notable to bring up. I know people bring it up in the comments. Joel Embiid has a PER of 31.6 right now, which has gone up. He just overtook Giannis. And again, I know folks is like have feelings about the advanced metrics, but like I'm trying to. These are all it is a comprehensive data. It's a report on what do you do, putting together your overall impact offensively and defensively, all the counting stats, all the raw data. That's all it is. And so it's just a collection of data that helps you understand your overall impact on the game. And again, Joe's always been favorable in the advanced metrics, though. That's the thing as well. Like for people that say they don't like him,
it's not necessarily.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily like set in. See, that's the thing on Twitter right now. Like Jokic fans are advanced stats right now because that favors him, and Sixers fans are like advanced stats, whatever. It doesn't matter because it's, you know what I mean. So that's what we're dealing with right now as far as the arguments I see every single day. But advanced stats can still be like skewed. You know what I mean? Like Blake Bortles had a higher QBR than Aaron Rodgers one year. Like right now, the guy with the highest defensive rating in the NBA is Sam Decker.
That's not based on a minute restriction though. So like if you were to put the actual
minimum minutes.
Yeah. So well again, if you put like, so anyway, if you say like box plus minus and all that, we've had that for a long time. Like I understand again, that's like people think that's a skewed metric, but it just helps you tell the story of a player's overall effectiveness. And again, I'm an analytics dude. Like I believe in math. Obviously I believe that there's a way that you can utilize it and help tell the story. Somebody said, who is this dude? Hey man, Swipa Cam, man. I think I know what I'm talking about a little bit.
I introduced you, man.
Yeah.
Everybody in the chat, man, you're gonna get an outside perspective here, man. You got to be a little bit, you know what I mean, open-minded here. Let's listen to it.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing though. Like I think as well as Embiid is playing, there is still a lot of evidence that does show that Jokic has been the more impactful player. Like he's as well. With the Facundo Campazzo situation, with the Austin Rivers situation, with the fact that he is missing Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. And again, I know that Tobias Harris isn't your favorite player, but again, he doesn't have another player on the team averaging over 15 points a game. And it's literally Jokic, and then it's nobody else. He leads the team in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals. And then on top of that, they are a 63-win team, or 63-win team when he's in the lineup, and they're 11-win team, when they're not. So like I think from on off, like it's everything is just there. I think because of the situation, in terms of measuring value, yeah, I mean, I think it's easier to say that Jokic has been more valuable to his team just based on the fact that they literally will not win anything, and they suck as soon as he goes out the game. Like, the other night, they are up 3 against the Utah Jazz. He comes back in, they're down 19, after like 6 minutes or so. And this is a repeated cycle. Like, this is something that's happened throughout the year. So if you're a Nuggets fan, we've been frustrated because we're looking at our bench lineup and saying, like, why can't y'all go out there and do y'all job at all? We have no shooters at all on our bench lineup. We just traded for Bryn Ford. Saku hadn't hit nothing. Austin Rivers hadn't hit nothing. They shooting 31 and 32% from the three. Monte Morris has been out because of the injuries. Barton's been out because of the injuries at different points in time. So you add all that together, he's been able to put together this team to even be over 500. And that's like a crazy accomplishment as well. So even when they lost to the 76ers, man, we lost to the 76ers without Joel Embiid in the game. Jokic went off, but he hurt his wrist at halftime, and literally nobody else was able to do anything the rest of the game. Aaron Gordon is not a scorer. He's a defensive ace. That's what he does. Will Barton is fourth or fifth best player in your team, so you can't actually go out and ask him to be consistent on the game-to-game basis. Again, I know advanced metrics is not the most favorable thing around here, but I do think that they help to tell the story. And I think the raw data, too, we've never seen a player averaging 26, 7.5, and 14. That's never existed. He's shooting 57% from the field, 36% from the line, from the three-point line. He's getting his free throw back up to 79%. But again, he's shooting 63% from twos and stuff as well. And this includes mid-range. Like, again, he's just doing everything. And then defensively, again, you could ask a lot of people that actually are watching the game. Not only has he improved defensively, but literally he's been one of the top 10 best bigs overall in the position this season. So pick and roll defense has been great. He's not a shot blocker. That's not what he does, but he's first in steals among bigs. He's second in deflections. Like, yeah, it's everything he needs to do, But
I think,
like I said, Go ahead.
I think all the things you just said about the team not having anybody around him and absolutely sucking when he sits. And somebody in the chat, I believe, maybe one of your subscribers is here. Is this a Denver fan right here? All season we've watched leads turn into double-digit deficits when Jokic sits. I think you're noticing that more because you're watching every single Denver Nuggets game. That's literally how I would describe the Philadelphia 76ers right now. As soon as Joel Embiid sits, a 20-point lead goes to 10, goes to 5, goes to 3. He has to come back in the game with 5 minutes left, and it's almost the same story. We also seem to have no shooters on the bench. Not just no shooters, we have no ball handling playmakers, experienced ball handling playmakers that you can rely on the entire roster. Like Tyrese Maxey's 21 years old. He has his games, but there's just nobody that can really step up. I think both of these teams without these guys would be bottom of the barrel NBA teams right now with what's on the roster. And right now we're playing without Seth Curry, Matisse Thybulle, and Shake Milton. It's bad. It's bad when Joel Embiid sits. You know what I mean? Like if Joel Embiid didn't play last night, we lose to the 10-30 Spurs, whatever the record is, 17-30 San Antonio Spurs. So it's hard for me to put one over the other. And more impactful, I can't go there with you. I just can't, because Joel Embiid is just the offensive side and the defensive side. The way that he impacts the game offensively and defensively, and I know Jokic has improved defensively versus what I would have argued last year. I just think Joel Embiid is literally the entire 76ers roster right now. He led the team last night in points, rebounds, and assists, and he's not even an assist guy. There's nobody on this squad at all. You know what I mean? And I like that you said that, though, because I think both of these players improved on weaknesses. I think my argument last year for Jokic would have been the team defense versus his individual defense when he sits. And now he seems like a better statistically, he's a better defender than he was last season. Joel Embiid is right now a better passer than he's ever been in his career. And that was the one thing that even Sixers fans used to harp on him for, passing out of double teams, his ability to see the floor. And he didn't even gradually get there. It's like he's making passes now that we've never seen him make. And it's like, what did this dude do this offseason? You know what I mean? I had clips pulled up, and then I had to restart my whole computer to try to, because we had the issue, and now I don't have anything pulled up. But he had like a no-look wraparound pass to Korkmaz cutting to the basket last night.
Yeah, I saw. That was amazing.
I would have never thought Joel Embiid would have done something like that. You know what I mean? So I think he's developing his passing game. I think Jokic, again, I haven't watched enough Nuggets games to really know what his like impact is defensively. But they're both just out of this world, and they both keep improving, and that's the scary part. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing too. And again, I know that again, this is where it comes down to the argument parts, right? You know, the Nuggets do have a better defense when Joker's on the court than when the 76ers do when Embiid is on the court right now. But most of that has to do with the fact that literally they funnel everything to Jokic. And so when they don't have him in the game, they're literally just switching everywhere, and they're getting blown by because they have no perimeter attack defenders at all. They have no perimeter defenders. Aaron Gordon is a wing defender, but he's not guarding. You know, he can guard point guards every so often, so he'll be on Trae Young when he's playing against Atlanta and all that, but there's literally no one else. But I think the thing is, too, and I think this goes back to even the Steph Curry effect. I do think, based on where we are, based on Bam Adebayo's improvement as a passer, Embiid's improvement as a passer, others, I think Jokic had that effect on the center position where now teams are saying we can utilize our bigs as playmakers more than we ever had before. And again, that started with Jokic, and the fact that you have a center averaging 8 assists a game. He's also the best passer in the NBA. He's one of the greatest passers we've ever seen in the NBA as well. And so I do think that that's part of what happened with Embiid. I think it's the same thing with Jokic. When Draymond Green told him last year that your defense is suspect, you need to improve. And so he's made a legitimate improvement on the defensive end. I think it's the same thing with Embiid. It's just that he needed to develop as a playmaker. You know, he obviously sees that there's a center that's literally the greatest ever at it across the way in Denver, Colorado. And I think he improved on it. So, again, I think they both bring a lot to their teams. I think the issue is going to come down to right now. I think Jokic is not only headed to be first team All NBA, but again, based on Basketball Reference, based on NBA.com, he is the MVP favorite right now because of his overall impact. You know, that could change at some point in time in the year. My whole thing that I've been most issue about with even last year was the fact that you can't have two centers on the first team All NBA team. because
Mhm.
there's no way you could tell me that he's not one of the three best players in the league right now, especially with Kevin Durant dropping out. But the fact of the matter is, they're going to look at it and say, all right, we're going to put Steph Curry here, either Ja Morant or Luka Doncic is going to be the other position, maybe Chris Paul. They're going to put Well, there, I don't know who the other forward's going to be. They might try to put DeMar DeRozan or something like that in the first team All NBA. And then they're going to look at the center position and they're going to say, look, man, like one dude won the MVP, winning the MVP, headed to win the MVP, and the other one was literally like almost as good, but we can't put two centers on there. And again, that's what I mean. Like in the Yoke era, I just think that based on where he's already climbed to, I think the fact that,
I just like when you say
but
the Jokic era because Sixers fans are just not. They're probably in
yeah,
the
I
chat.
know.
What?
But like, I'm not even trying to be disrespectful, bro. You know
No,
me.
but
I'm not trying to be disrespectful at all.
what is the Yoke
Yeah,
era versus the Embiid era? Because this, as far as we're concerned,
yeah.
this is the Joel Embiid era.
So I think if you just look at how the 2020 started, that's what I'm referencing. 2020 start, Yoke walks into the season and then he moves into going to the playoffs, going to the Western Conference, going to the Western Conference Finals, being a historically great playoff performer. He didn't last year averages 30, 10, and 5 on 40, 50, 90, the first player in NBA history to ever
Oh, he
do
was out
that.
of this world. Yeah.
Yeah, but and I think it adds to the fact that though he's been first team All NBA every year except for the year that Anthony Davis got it as a lifetime achievement Laker award because he played for the Lakers until they decided to give it to him. But then after that, he's been first team All NBA and he was MVP last year. And so again, if he continues to head down this track for the rest of the season, if he does win MVP, that's going to be two MVPs. That's going to be three all first team All NBAs over Embiid, and then even the second team All NBA. I think Embiid made third team that year if he played the entire year. I can't remember. That was the 2008, 2019, 20 season. Did he make All NBA that year?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, I think
I can't remember which years he was hurt, which years he wasn't. Which, yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
And time keeps flying past.
I would say the same thing. If Embiid won MVP last year and he was first team All NBA twice, it would be the Embiid era as of right now. But again, that's just not the way it's played out. I don't think that's his fault though.
Here's one more thing I'm going to say about the comparison between the two. So when I talk about the roster construction, like Joel Embiid's absolutely unstoppable one-on-one. There's not a single player that can stop him from putting the ball in the hoop. The problem with the roster construction is that if the players around him aren't good enough, he's so physically dominant that he'll get double and triple teamed, or they'll run a zone defense. He's absolutely our only weapon on the offensive side of the ball, our only legitimate weapon. And when they double, triple team, run a zone, whatever, and they have good rotations, and the rest of the team isn't good enough to even be in the right spots. I mean, it's bad sometimes. That really affects him. Whereas I don't think Jokic is double teamed as much as Joel Embiid because he's not as physically dominant as Joel Embiid. He's not a threat to take two dribbles and dunk on the whole squad. So again, two separate types of players, but I think that his efficiency ratings can be more favorable because he doesn't have the double and triple teams coming at him every night like Joel Embiid does. What do you think of that?
You got to remember though that the Nuggets average more points per possession when they double Yoke as opposed to when they single Yoke. So that's why they don't double him anymore.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
He's an incredible passer. You don't want to double him. Yeah, that's a good
and
point
that's the
too.
whole thing. They don't run zone against the Nuggets, so they run zone against the bench. But the reason that they run zone against the bench is they have nothing. They don't have a shooter or playmaker. But then what happens is, as soon as Yoke comes back in the game, if they run zone once, last year the Milwaukee Bucks tried this against Yoke, and the Miami Heat this year tried it against Yoke, and they got absolutely blitzed repeatedly because all he does, he sits in that middle pocket. He literally eats your defense alive by passing it to the corners or throwing alley oops to Aaron Gordon, or he's literally one of the best mid-range shooters in the NBA, and he just lines you up the entire game. The problem is that, like, you know, people have referenced this to me before, like, hey, Joel gets doubled all the time. I'm like, duh. But if I was playing and you didn't have Steph Curry on the court, if he's not on the court, I'm doubling him every single time. Mm-hmm. Every single time. I'm not worried about Korkmaz. I'm not worried about Tobias Harris burning me alive either. But if you just leave him out, that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, if you have him on the court, maybe you don't double him, but then even then you don't try to cover up the skip pass. The problem with Jokic is the Nuggets have built their offense around what he's told them to do, so they are live in their cutters because he's the one that put that offense in the 2015-16 season. But that's because
so we can agree that Sixers management has been lackluster for years.
The best season y'all had was that 2018-2019 when y'all had Jimmy Butler and them. But then they decided, like, hey, we lost Jimmy. Let's pay Tobias Harris 5 years, $180 million, a deal for 5 years. It didn't make sense to me at the time. I thought the Al Horford move was terrible. I thought the Tobias Harris move was terrible. Again, if you're going to have Ben Simmons on this roster, what you need to have is a bunch of shooters, and literally you need some playmakers on the offense that can help run the offense and let him do what he needs to do as well.
Yeah.
They didn't do that.
No, they didn't do that. Yeah, because that one year, Ben had won it was like a 14-game win streak towards the end, because that was the last time we had a real GM. It was Brian Colangelo. People didn't like him, but he was a real experienced NBA GM, and he traded players and just put nothing but shooters around Ben Simmons when Joel Embiid was out the rest of that season. He put Ersan Ilyasova on the floor. He put Marco Bellinelli on the floor, and they were just shooting threes all day. And like that's an obvious thing. And as soon as Elton Brand came in, it's like, what are we doing here? And the Jimmy Butler and Joel Embiid pairing was amazing. That's the two different dynamics on a team that you want. And even the Tobias Harris thing didn't fit Ben Simmons. If they would have just, Tobias and Ben, you're up out of here, let's get some more role players around these two superstars, that would have made more sense than what they ended up doing. I mean, like, the whole thing is that I like that you said the Nuggets have built the roster around what Jokic wants. And I think that's one of Joel Embiid's biggest flaws, is being too humble and not being outspoken enough to, like, the front office and management, and even to Ben Simmons and other players. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he should have been kind of like, I'm the man, do what I say. And I think hopefully he gets to that point, because they're still kind of not doing anything for him right now.
Yeah, let me clarify that too. It's not that Jokic said anything. I think Tim Connolly he's obviously one of the better GMs in the NBA. So in 2016, they draft Jamal Murray. In 2018, they're sitting at 14, and they're sitting here like, bro, like, you gonna let Michael Porter Jr. fall to us? They took Michael Porter Jr. They signed Monte Morris. They went out and got, Paul Millsap. He got done. They went out and got Aaron Gordon. They had Jeremy Grant, and he fled. They tried to get Drew Holiday, but then, the Bucks offered 5 first-round picks for Drew Holiday. So then the Nuggets were like, we're done with this. That starting 5, when healthy, with Jamal Murray, Will Barton, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Jokic, the best starting 5 in the league over that 10-game sample size that we have, because every one of them were go-getters. You had 3 perimeter attack scorers. You had Jokic, who could do anything he wanted. Then you had AG again, that was just playing tremendous defense. So, again, I think that I don't know how I'm disrespecting you. I'm just telling y'all the truth, man. Like,
he's giving his opinion. What's he supposed to say?
Yeah, if Embiid won MVP and he won first team All NBA multiple times in a row and is on track to do the same thing, this would be the Embiid era. Yeah, I think we could all agree that Giannis is probably the most accomplished player, obviously, in this era. So it's been the Giannis era. But I think in terms of the overall center position, it's just a lean towards Jokic. But that could literally change this season if Embiid stays on this streak, and the Nuggets, they continue to suck because they don't have any help. So that all could change.
I just think you're saying that from a perspective of a Nuggets fan. I think if you ask NBA fans, if you tell someone to name the first center they think of in the NBA right now, they're saying Joel Embiid.
Well, that's attributed to a lot of different things, though. That's not necessarily play. So Joe plays in one of the largest markets in the U.S. That's true. He's also the more popular player nationally. This is also true. He's also and you already know this. They don't like Jokic. People don't like. They're not like walking around like celebrating Jokic on ESPN and Fox Sports and all that. Even the other day when Kendrick Perkins and Tim Legler and who else was it? And Nike Wubike, they all came out and said they much rather have Joel Embiid. And Stephen A. Smith. And again, this is when we knew. Stephen A. Smith came out and said that Joel Embiid, he thinks his skills transferred to the playoffs better. And obviously, I'm sitting here like, well, but they've been to the playoffs. And the fact is Jokic had more success, and he's also had historically great numbers, but still, like, he doesn't get the love for being a playoff performer. Like, literally, he's done everything you can ask him to do. But again, I think a lot of this goes back to most people would prefer to have a big man like Joe. If Joe is healthy, they would take him 1v1 because they think that you can utilize that better, and they think it's easier to build around that.
I think if Joel Embiid had a Jamal Murray instead of a Ben Simmons, they might have taken that Toronto Raptors series with Jimmy Butler.
If he was healthy, they would. If Jamal Murray played for the 76ers last year, they would have ran through Atlanta.
Yeah,
they would have ran. They probably would have ran through the Bucks too, because the fact of the matter is the Bucks didn't have anything to deal with Joe inside, and having Jamal. Yeah, I mean, there's a legitimate case that they could have went out and been to the finals at the very least.
So where do the aside from the MVP talk, because I'm just gonna say like that, like I feel like you could pick either one every year. Jokic last year because Joel Embiid missed some games. I think Joel Embiid is gonna win it this year. I think it's hard to win 2 in a row. You know what I mean? I think it's hard for them to even give 2 in a row. to somebody. And I think it's just a toss up between the two guys. I really do. I'm an NBA fan. I think they're two different types of players, and they're both amazing. So I don't know what else to say about it. But the Denver Nuggets right now. Jamal Murray tore his ACL last year in the playoffs.
Oh, April 2nd against the Golden State Warriors.
And when's he supposed to come back?
February, the end of February, beginning of March.
Was it the year before that he was on the playoff tear? We had back-to-back 50-point games, right?
64 to 250. Yeah, that was the 2020 playoffs.
So what is your prediction? Like, what's your opinion on the Nuggets right now? Like with him coming back, and what's MPJ? He has a back issue, right? Is that scary for you? That he's had kind of his whole career?
Well, Jamal's supposed to come back. Really, we need him in the worst way because, like I said, this team is not a playoff team. If Jokic not in the game, they're literally one of the worst 5 teams in basketball. So having a floor raiser, not just a floor raiser, but having a ceiling raiser like Jamal Murray would be great. To have some actual competent guard play would be great. So absolutely, I think that's going to make the world of a difference. The thing is that MPJ right now looks like he's on track to come back in maybe end of March, around there. He looks really good. He's been healing up. Everything's been going really well. But he's literally like been warming up before the games. Looks way healthier at any point in time. He's looked the last several weeks. So it looks like they're both going to be back this year. And again, I think if they're at least 80% of themselves, I think that's terrible for the rest of the NBA and especially for the Western Conference, just because Jokic is playing better than he's ever has before. And then on top of that, he's having an all-time top 10 season right now. And again, this is me being soft on that. I think he's having one of the best 5 individual seasons ever. But again, if you even look at having Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. back, where they 41.7% three-point shooter and Jamal Murray, 44.5 three-point shooter and Michael Porter Jr. You put that on the court with Jokic, and then Will Barton is now your 4th best offensive player. Yeah, I think that changes everything.
I agree. I mean, I picked Denver to come out of the West. I wanted them to come out of the West 2 years ago, but even last year before Jamal Murray got hurt, I wanted them to come out of the West. When they're healthy, those 3 players, because Michael Porter Jr. was such a sleeper pick with how far he fell in the draft with being injured, and of course the Sixers passed him up. Why wouldn't they? That's just what we do. And then he sits out his rookie season, and then he comes around, and it's like, oh, he is that player that he was in high school that everybody wanted, that thought was going to go number 1 in the draft and all that stuff. So that's just an amazing draft pick for the Denver Nuggets. And if they can have those 3 guys healthy and have a decent some kind of production off the bench. I know their bench production isn't great. Yeah, they can be a favorite to come out of the West if they can get that team healthy. Aaron Cabbage, thank you for supporting the channel, man. Jokic plays like a point guard in the sense that he's setting everyone else up. Embiid's playing this season like a 2 or a 3. His off the dribble game is on another level. I agree. That's what I mean, man. It's pick your poison. Sixers fans are going to say Embiid. Nuggets fans are going to say Jokic.
I think that's what it is. I think that's hilarious.
James, thank you.
That's absolutely hilarious.
It's closer to the Porzingis era than it is the Jokic era. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. But listen.
Here, I have a question for you, brother.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, how long do you think you have this window for with Embiid? Like, how long do you actually think he's going to be able to play, be healthy, and be in his prime?
That's what I wanted to get into you with, because it's scary, because this guy he's not been the most healthy player. This is the healthiest season he's had so far. He seems to always have something happen. Like I mentioned in a video yesterday, one time he got shouldered in the face by Markelle Fultz around a screen and missed 10 games with a broken cheekbone. There's just things happen to this guy all the time. And so knock on wood again. I'm going to knock on wood every day, but it's almost like Daryl Morey's sitting around we don't want to jump the gun, or we don't want to make a move that hurts us in the future or whatever. But you kind of have to accelerate the process here, because you don't know how long you're going to have this guy at 100% playing the way that he is. He's 27. How long do people that are 7'1", 280 pounds that play the way that he plays, how long do they play? You know what I mean? You don't have a 35-year-old center playing the way that he's playing. It's 27, 28, 29. He starts pushing 30, 31. Who knows? He could slow down a lot. He could it might be a 3-year window right now. And Daryl Morey's sitting around kind of acting like, my opinion is that he's acting like he's willing to waste the rest of this season and go into the offseason. I think he's playing games with other GMs in the NBA, and I want to hear your opinion on what you think Daryl Morey's doing and what you think he's going to do.
Well, here's my thing with Embiid. We saw this with Yao Ming. Like, Yao Ming was a one of one. We had never seen a big man that could shoot like that could play like that. Now, obviously, I think, if you take peak for peak, I think Embiid obviously is better than Yao Ming. But I'm just saying, like, from a health standpoint, I think what's frustrating about this is is just very, like, he's so superstar driven. Like, when he was with the Houston Rockets and they made that asinine trade for Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook, it didn't make sense then, but I know that James Harden obviously was a part of that. He just didn't want to play with. And again, now we see that James Harden was actually the issue the entire time. It was not Chris Paul. And then he always is so bent on making these superstar trades. And my whole thing is like, Jokic's never played with an all-star. Like, I want to. He's never played with an all-star player in his career. If Embiid is that dominant, which he is, you don't need to give him a top 10 or top 15 player for him to get over the hump. He's that good where you can give him an actual top 30 player, which would be a Jamal Murray type, which would be something like the Aaron Fox, who's not top 30, but top 45-ish. You could give him maybe a Tyrese Halliburton or something like that to let him grow, have a cheap contract. Like, the idea that somehow, even Kyle Lowry, like, had you had Kyle Lowry, like, this whole situation would be different. My whole thing is just like, and again, this is just, it is what it is. I'm not trying to, I'm literally like just trying to paint the picture. The odds that Joe stays healthy the rest of the season are very low based on historical precedent. My whole issue is, why would you not maximize?
I need you to knock on wood right now for me, man.
Knocking on wood. Well, I'm praying for him. Like, no, I'm praying. I don't want no ill for nobody.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm legit praying he stays healthy all year. My whole thing is just like, you don't know, like, if you think about it, if you had another co-star with him, they'd be in the first seed right now. And then on top of that, they could be, 4 or 5 games ahead of everybody else. So that way, if Joe needs to sit down because of knee soreness, because, foot, whatever the issue is.
Right.
All right, bet. But right now, he has to play every game at maximum level in order for them to have an opportunity to win. And that's just not sustainable. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. They beat him by 8 points or 6 points or whatever. So it's just not
2 with like 2 minutes left. They almost blew it.
I think that's terrible.
But I like that you said that, because I said that the other day, and some people were in the comments like, "You're an idiot. Role players aren't going to blah blah blah." But the fact that Joel Embiid has this team at 26 and 17, literally by himself. I mean, Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris are averaging 16 points per game each. You know what I mean? Tobias is not playing anywhere near what a max contract level player should be playing like. But the fact that he has this team where he does, with that like low level of supporting cast, yeah, I think you don't need superstars. You need really, really good, a couple really, really good role players like Giannis needed Middleton. You know what I mean? Nobody's saying Chris Middleton's a superstar. He was an all-star. Is he an all-star if he's not on Giannis's team? Probably not. You know what I mean? You just need you need those high-level role players to support him. And I think he alone can take those players to another level without going and waiting the offseason to get 32-year-old James Harden.
I think that, people are saying that I think DeJounte Murray would be a great get. That's an 18, 9, and 8 guy that you could immediately plug into the lineup. That's a great perimeter defender, so you can substitute that. I don't know if the Spurs would necessarily take Ben Simmons. I don't know if that's necessarily like their thing. And then to your super chat, imagine if Denver had traded Mitchell on draft night. The Denver Nuggets were never drafting Donovan Mitchell. They drafted him for the Utah Jazz for Trey Lyles and Tyler Lydon. They were never going to take him because they already had Gary Harris and Jamal Murray, and they had Malik Beasley in them. So that was just, that was one of them things that is still the real miss for Denver is that they were going to draft OG Anunoby, but they waited. So they moved back in the draft instead of taking him at 14, and so that's how they didn't get OG. That's the real miss in Nuggets history.
Yeah, but, I don't even think I knew that Donovan Mitchell trade. I don't even think I knew that happened.
Well, neither of them are on the team anymore. Neither of them panned out for anything. We drafted Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell for Utah Jazz. Yeah, it's crazy. But here's my thing, man. I think that if y'all had DeJounte Murray, De'Aaron Fox, I would just much rather y'all have that. Again, I think Jamal Murray is an All NBA caliber player, but again, he plays in a system that doesn't necessarily allow for him to be averaging 25, 5, and 5. But in the playoffs, he does. He averages 25, 5, and 5 on 40% 3-point shooting and like 50% from the field and 90% from the line. But again, I just don't think that. I don't honestly think that Daryl Morey is the best. I think because he's a big name, people love him. I just don't know if he's actually the best fit for what the Sixers need. Because I honestly don't think he's working with a window that's going to be open that long. Just because we don't know with Embiid and his foot and his legs if he can sustain that for four more seasons.
So people think he's obsessed with James Harden, and people think that he's going to pass up any of these offers. Apparently, the Kings offered DeJounte Murray and several draft picks, and then there was a rumor that they offered DeJounte Murray, Harrison Barnes, who else was in that, and two first-round draft picks.
De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes.
No, they didn't offer, and this is what I think he wants. I think he's trying to pry De'Aaron Fox and Halliburton out of there and saying, listen, if you want Ben, it's going to take this. And then he's telling people like, well, if you're not going to give me that, I'm going to wait till the offseason because James Harden's going to leave Brooklyn. And a lot of people think he's obsessed with getting James Harden on his team. I haven't heard him say anything or even, I don't know if he's obsessed with James Harden or not. I'm personally not obsessed with James Harden at 32 years old. He's not. I said today in a video, he's not LeBron James. He's not going to be at an elite level when he's 37. The guy comes into the season out of shape every single year. He doesn't take care of his body like somebody that needs to, that wants to play that long. I don't think James Harden's going to be good for that much longer. So this whole like we got to get James Harden thing, I'm like, if it was 27-year-old James Harden, yeah, I'd be all about it.
I'm out again, man. I just don't. I don't trust Daryl Morey to do the right thing. Hopefully he does. Maybe this trade deadline, he just like, all right, bet. I've just been playing everybody for a full, give him an opportunity. I think the East is stacked, obviously. I don't know how 76ers fans feel about the Chicago Bulls, but I think when they're healthy, they're a very good team.
Oh yeah.
I don't think Vooch can do anything with Embiid, but again, I think the fact that they have DeRozan and Zach LaVine playing all NBA levels, and then they have Alex Caruso and Lonzo Ball playing great perimeter defense. So I think they're going to be deadly. I think the Bucks obviously are the Bucks. I think they're probably going to be the favorite. And, I even take them over the Nets. I think the Nets are just a bunch of individual superstars that aren't necessarily a great team, nor do they have great defense on the inside.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I just don't, I don't know, man. I'm not super hopeful about it. But again, that all could change.
Yeah, it makes me nervous. He was on the radio 2 days ago, and he was talking about how he admitted basically that Joel Embiid's level of play has upped the chances of them coming down on their price for Ben Simmons. So it has like made them start thinking like, yo, maybe we do need to take a little bit lesser or stop asking for, 5 players and 7 pick swaps for this dude. So I have hope that he's going to do something at the deadline. You're not wrong about him being obsessed with superstars. He's tried to make players that don't fit in Houston. Chris Paul and James Harden didn't make sense. James Harden and Russell Westbrook did make sense.
Was it really true last year that they wanted to trade Ben Simmons for Harden when he was with the Rockets, but they said no to it?
The Rockets said no, and then it was he had just walked away from. He had just resigned from Houston like 3 months before that, maybe.
Yeah, I got you.
So there's rumors that Houston was like, nah, we're not giving him anything. But then there's also rumors that they wanted Tyrese Maxey on top of it, and he said no. But he offered Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle and 2 first-round picks, I think, for James Harden.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So he tried to
the Nuggets were in the middle of that, too. They asked for Michael Porter Jr., and the Nuggets said no, because we weren't giving Michael Porter Jr. up for James Harden.
No. Those guys that are like showing signs of superstardom at such a young age, you can't do that. Yeah, I wouldn't have done that either.
And I think James, had we known, that Jamal Murray was going to go down, had you had James Harden and Yoke, then obviously that would have been great. That would have made a lot of things a lot easier. They probably at least would have made it to the Western Conference Finals with that duo. That way you actually have guards that could play against the Phoenix Suns. So this is the thing. People are always talking about how Yoke got swept last year. Like, I don't think people realize that, like, Facundo Campazzo was 5'9" and a terrible shooter and terrible defender, was playing with Austin Rivers, terrible shooter at 6'2", against Chris Paul and Devin Booker, and they lit them up. Absolutely lit them up. So there was nothing they could do about that. And so I just, man, like I just think that the Nuggets have had injury issues that have really plagued them where they are right now, and I think the 76ers have a Ben Simmons and some management issues. But hopefully that gets cleared up.
So is this the first year in a lot of years that like the East is stronger than the West?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a lot of it has to do with the injuries. The Nuggets aren't healthy. Mavs weren't healthy for a while. They're better now. And then obviously Memphis is rised up. The Lakers are the Lakers, and they fell off. The Clippers don't have Paul George or Kawhi Leonard right
Yeah,
now. The Portland Trailblazers,
and they still
Dame,
beat
that
them.
whole situation. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
there
we
you go.
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost to the Clippers without them a couple of days
Yeah,
ago. It was
by one,
terrible.
right?
Yeah, but we were up by 24 points with 7 minutes left in the third quarter. And that's what I mean by like this team just collapses. And we used to think it was just a Brett Brown issue. And now it seems like it's a Doc Rivers issue. It's just crazy. I don't know, man. But Doc Rivers is a whole
The
other
deal with
topic. Like
Doc Rivers, like why is Doc Rivers not really all that loved by a Philadelphia fan? Besides the comments he made the other night where he said, "Would you ask Pop that question?" I saw that.
it started with we brought Doc Rivers in here and the fans thought he was going to hold players accountable. An old school experienced NBA coach is not going to take any BS from anybody, and he's going to tell Ben Simmons to shoot the ball. To our own chagrin, he not only did not tell Ben Simmons to shoot the ball, he took it a step further to sit up in front of the media and tell everybody they need to appreciate him more. He's such an amazing player without shooting. He doesn't understand why the city of Philadelphia doesn't appreciate Ben Simmons. Night in and night out, he did this to reporters. And we were like, wait a minute, this guy's defending Ben Simmons more than Brett Brown was. We wanted you to change the culture over here, and you're like kissing this dude's ass more than Brett Brown was. Like it was the complete opposite of what we wanted. And then you get into this, we end up being right about Ben Simmons, by the way. He quits and leaves and refuses to come back. So it's like, Doc, you were wrong. We told you he was a fraud, you know what I mean? And this year, he gets in arguments with reporters about blowing leads because you're not allowed to ask him if coaching had anything to do with blowing a lead. He's like, would you ask Greg Popovich that? I've earned the right to. No, you haven't earned the right to do anything, bro. You won one championship with 4 Hall of Famers on your team, and you haven't done anything since. And you have more blown leads than any coach in NBA history. You have more 3-1 blown playoff leads than any coach in NBA history. He's just on such a high horse, and the way that he comes off to the media is condescending, and he really thinks he's like Phil Jackson. It's crazy.
I remember during the playoffs, they asked him about like Ty, because that's when they were losing to the Nuggets, and they asked him about Ty Lue afterwards. Hey, did you, what do you think? Blah blah blah. Do you think you could lean on him and make some adjustments? And he said Ty Lue was sitting right there with me, implying that like he got swept too. And I was just over here like, dude, like, why did you just throw him under the bus like that?
And he basically told Paul George it's going to be the same thing, and then it wasn't the same thing. They were better the next year. And Paul George basically said like he was trying to use me like JJ Redick, and I'm not. I think pretty sure that's the name he said, like a catch and shoot guy off a screen. And he's like, I'm more of a creator and an ISO guy. And if Philly sees this guy and they hear him talk every night, and he's just, man, I'm pretty sure like everybody in the chat right now, but not a lot of people in the entire city are very fond of Doc Rivers. It's just hiring.
Who does Philadelphia like? Because I heard Philadelphia doesn't like Jalen Hurts. Because he's inconsistent. they like Joel Embiid. They don't like Ben Simmons. So tell me, like, who's the players that actually people get along with in Philly?
No, did you say they don't like Joel Embiid? They love Joel Embiid.
No, they love Joe. I know they love Joe. I'm saying, but outside of Joe, who is a beloved figure?
Bryce Harper.
Bryce Harper's loved, even okay.
Oh yeah. Here's the thing. Bryce Harper's a superstar, over $350 million, overpaid. You would think he's a diva type of guy that came in here and got all this money or whatever. But from game one, when you see this guy hustle out a ground ball that, you know what I mean? Just like little things, man. Like he hits a single and sprints, his helmet flies off. He never, ever, ever quits on a play. He's like, that dude's Philly to the core. Like Philadelphia fans can just feel that from a player. You know what I mean? Like the Phillies will be down 12-0, and this guy will hit a double and try to get a triple and just dive in his face in the dirt. Like he's such a dude that loves the game and gives his everything. So it's those kind of players. It's these players that you can witness a player taking a play off, getting beat, You know what I mean? Not even moving on defense like Tobias Harris does every single night. Not he's a weak side defense. He takes like half a step and puts his hand out. He plays James Harden-esque defense, and the fans watch him do it, and then they boo him. And then instead of saying like I need to play harder, he comes out and says like whatever he said about the fans. And then Danny Green's out here making comments about the fans. It's a lot of players that are like, bro, it's not going to work out for you, coming at the fans. Bryce Harper got booed. He was in a slump. He got booed. He came up post game and he said, I sucked. I deserve to be booed. But he also looked at a fan, told him to shut the F up, and hit a 3-run home run his next at bat. So we just love players that play hard, try their best. Like we love TJ McConnell. The guy's not a good NBA player, not a great NBA player. We love the heart and the effort. It's these divas that come in here and just, you know what I mean? They're just, I don't know, man. They're not built for.
Hold on, time out. Now let's be fair. Ben Simmons did build a really nice house in LA. No, he didn't have a basketball court, but he did build a house in LA.
Hey, he's gonna have to come back and play soon because I watched the whole YouTube video yesterday on how NBA players go broke, and I mean this dude's not setting himself up very smartly, especially being a whip collector, buying $2 million cars that depreciate in value. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm not saying I know his money, but it doesn't seem like he's spending his money on money that grows itself. And so he has a $5 million house in New Jersey right now, and the most expensive house in the neighborhood besides that is $2.2 million. He's trying to sell the house for $5 million. It's not going to sell for $5 million. So he's buying real estate, but he's not even buying it like smartly enough to you know what I mean? You're gonna have to come down on the price. And if you don't start playing basketball, what are you going to do?
So would y'all, under any circumstances, would you accept Ben Simmons back on the team?
No. Listen, they would in the playoffs last year. It was like game 3 of the Hawks series or whatever game they came back to Philly. They put extra barriers in like the tunnels and stuff. I'm telling you that no, I don't even think the team would allow it. I think it would just be
Well, they said they wanted him back to start the year. Doc said he wanted to work it out, and he's a great player and this and that.
I'm starting to think it's like all a plan for them to try to keep his trade value high in like the NBA. Like let's just keep telling the NBA and the media that Ben Simmons is amazing and the fans are just mean, and then maybe a GM will believe us that he just wants out of Philly because they're just jerks. And they boo him and they hate him because they run stars out of town, whatever. I really think that's unless Doc's actually that soft, but maybe he is.
You think that Joel Embiid is a good leader? Do you like is that one of his stronger qualities?
I think it's stepped up this season, definitely. His being vocal to the younger guys and telling players flat out. You know what I mean? Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle, whoever. He's like, yo, shoot the ball, man. You know what I mean? You're in the corner, 3 seconds on the shot clock. Why are you passing that up? Whereas I just think there was this superstardom that came with Ben Simmons. This, he's the next LeBron. He's this, he's that. And he showed up, and everybody in the whole city was just so happy to have somebody like that because we were so desperate for a name that nobody wanted to say anything to him. You couldn't treat him like a brand new NBA player if he was a second round pick, they would be like, yo, shoot the ball, bro. Like, what are you doing? So everybody walked on eggshells and it ended up worse than it should have. I mean, if it was the 90s, like the dude there would have been fist fights in the locker room over this guy. You know what I mean? Shoot the damn ball, bro. Like we're doing everything out here and you're,
but honestly, do you think it is like what they were saying? That's just like, he has a mental block, or do you feel like he just literally like is rebelling? Like, I'm not shooting the ball.
I've asked myself that a lot. I honestly can't even decide between the two. It might be just the bright lights come on and he just can't do it. Like he catches the ball in the corner and he just kind of panics a little bit and passes it or takes a dribble when he should have just shot the ball. Or he's actually that arrogant and like stubborn and like stuck on himself that he believes he doesn't have to. And he believes that nobody in the world can tell him what to do. It's crazy. And it actually, I picked up on his level of arrogance years ago with him making comments to reporters like, yeah, well, I'm an all-star. So like what? Like a reporter says, you you only took 3 field goal attempts in a playoff game. Do you think that blah, blah, blah? And he like literally said, yeah, well, I'm an all-star. So you know what I mean? Or I had 12 assists or whatever. He's combative. He's defensive. And I'm like, this guy's an asshole. You know what I mean? And I picked up on that. I didn't know it would get to this level, but it's gotten past basketball. It's gotten, this guy's so arrogant. He quit. He's so stuck on I'm right and nobody can tell me what to do. He stopped playing. That's crazy.
I remember the fallout of the whole Trae Young situation. Obviously, like you said, I'm in Atlanta, so they were going crazy when that whole series happened. Well, number one, when they won, I'm just like, because I watched Atlanta last year, and then they were getting the doors blown off in some games. And then I watched, the whole Ben Simmons thing. I watched John Collins dunk on Embiid, and the whole city was just in a frenzy. And then it was playing against the Bucks and all that other stuff, man. So, like, yeah, I really do hope that Philadelphia figures it out. I hope, obviously, Ben Simmons figures out what he wants to do with his life and all that other stuff. But I just, this has gone a really long time. And again, you got Nuggets beat writers and stuff and people that cover the team that are still asking that same question. Why is he still on the team? Because it doesn't make sense to anyone else. It's just like, why is he still there? You could have traded him in the offseason. Why are you waiting to get this maximum value from this dude? Like, again, he's not even Jamal Murray and all of them. Like, he's not even at that level. So, like, whatever you think you're getting, like, just trade him. And then sometimes GMs and people, they get so lost in, like, players and name, they don't realize that the culture is more important than the players. The culture is more important than the players that are making up the team. And the fact of the matter is, he is hurting your culture. But, yeah, anyway.
Morey already said he does not want to benefit the other team at all. So him giving Simmons and Maxey for Jalen and one of their bench players is like him saying, here we don't want to win. Dashazy, are you telling me right now that the Sixers shouldn't trade Ben Simmons and Tyrese Maxey for Jaylen Brown? I can't get down with that. I can't get down with that at all.
The thing is, with Jaylen Brown, he like in his career has had more turnovers than assists. He is a ball stopper.
Oh yeah, so I agree with that.
That's not. I don't want that with Joe. I don't want Joe to have a ball stopper averaging 25 points and have Tobias Harris. That would make no sense to me. So you would have to get a point guard from somewhere. That's my only thing. Just give him a point guard, please.
Yeah, he needs a point guard. He needs a facilitating point guard. And last night, me watching DeJounte Murray last night, that dude is just, bro, he just, the way he runs a pick and roll is like, I don't think people realize it yet, because he's not on a good team. The way he runs a pick and roll is like experience, like veteran level. Like, I mean, he just reads the floor. He just slows down the game and he puts the ball in a rope. Like, he really throws dimes. I mean, he had 19, 12, and 6 last night. And that dude, that's exactly what the Sixers need. Somebody that can stretch the floor and bring the defense out and run a pick and roll like that, because Tyrese Maxey's not that guy.
What would it take for the Denver Nuggets to get Matisse Thybulle from you? Could we give you Campazzo and a couple second-round picks?
Campazzo and a couple second-round picks. Listen, I honestly, I think Matisse Thybulle is a defensive freak, but there's times where you notice his offensive deficiencies when he's almost unplayable in certain situations because he's not a good enough three-point shooter to be a 3-and-D type of player. A 3-and-D type of player has to be at least a Danny Green. You got to be at least a 39-40% three-point shooter to not be able to do anything else offensively. You have to be able to catch the ball and shoot.
Cool. He can't dribble still? He still can't dribble anything?
No, he can't do anything with the basketball. He has zero offense.
Wait a minute. So if I traded you Monte Morris right now for Matisse Thybulle, y'all wouldn't take that deal?
I don't think the Sixers would take that deal because I think they're just too high on Matisse Thybulle in general.
They seem like they're high on Thybulle, Maxey, Simmons, and Embiid. At some point, those three other players have to have some kind of trade value because it doesn't make right now. Like I said, it doesn't make sense.
In all honesty, Matisse Thybulle is an athletic freak that, in my honest opinion, doesn't have a whole lot of basketball talent at all. His defensive instincts are insane. His length, his quickness, all that is crazy. That's what makes him a great defender. But when it comes to having the ball in his hands, bro, this dude has no idea what to do with a basketball every time he catches it. He doesn't even look at the rim. He's just like, get ready to get somebody else take this. I don't know what to do. If he had a little bit of basketball skill where he could just square up, jab step, take a dribble, his athleticism, he'd be able to just take 2 dribbles baseline and dunk on 3 people. Like he would be insane if he had any basketball IQ on the offensive side of the ball.
You know how good he would be playing next to Yoke and literally just running around on offense and asking him to cut. Like he's not. I know he's not an offensive scorer. I know that, but like I would rather him. And honestly, like the Nuggets need that. Like I feel like the 76ers. I don't know if we would trade Monte Morris for him because he's literally our starting point guard right now. But so I said they'd take Monte Morris in a second for Thibault. Look, I'm trying to tell you, man, like we could use Thibault, y'all could use Monte Morris, but I think the teams value both those players too much. They wouldn't make that trade.
Yeah, I don't think they would make that trade. But Matisse has improved in his cutting. Like that's where he gets a lot of his points is cutting to the rim when Joel's double teamed on the block. So he's improved that. It's still frustrating to me to see him just catch the ball with 3 seconds on the shot clock and just there's nothing's gonna happen. He's a guy, but Danny Green's that kind of guy. That's what I mean. You gotta at least be a good 3-point shooter to be that guy that can't do anything with the ball.
Well, so who is has Seth Curry lived up to expectations based on what you've needed him for this year?
Yeah, I think Seth Curry's exceeded expectations. Like when you think about it, he was traded for Josh Richardson. Yeah, he's exceeded expectations because when Ben even the playoffs last year, Seth averaged 20 points per game in the playoffs because Ben Simmons he quits. Like he stops playing in the half court. So then you're like, oh, we actually don't have a point guard on the floor because the point guard, air quotes, is just standing under the basket doing nothing. So Seth Curry has to be this interim point guard, and he ends up being like a decent like ball handling. I mean, I wouldn't call him facilitator at all, but at least running pick and rolls and like finding his shot in the mid range and stuff like that. He turned into a pretty decent combo guard, but he was like forced to do that because of Ben Simmons' deficiencies. And then this season, it's like now Ben's not even here. We got a 21-year-old point guard in Tyrese Maxey. Now you got it. Now we expect you to keep that up. So I think he's exceeded expectations for sure.
So I'm saying, but like they don't move in your offense. Like they literally like just stand and watch Embiid do everything. That's kind of how you describe it.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
That's so crazy to me.
That's the entire offense. When we lost to the Celtics a couple weeks ago, it was like a terrible. It was like 87-86 or something. But the whole offense was that. And I don't think Doc Rivers even implements like a backup plan at all. He's like, all right, it's going to be give the ball to Embiid and everybody stand around. And then when Embiid's out, it's like, now what do we do? Now we got Korkmaz trying to run point guard with, Andre Drummond. And it's just, I think Embiid is so good. And the same thing happened with Brett Brown. I just think he's so good that a coach isn't even implementing an offense. It's just give him the ball and he's going to take you to a W. And if he ever gets a supporting cast and a coach that could be a little bit creative, I think the Sixers can win a ring with Joel Embiid, but I don't know if it'll ever happen.
Doc has been like that. He was like that with the Celtics. Literally, they had Paul Pierce. Rajon Rondo was the point guard. They had a historically great defender in Kevin Durant. And so they just made that work. And then Ray Allen was obviously Ray Allen. But when he had the Clippers, that's what happened when we were down 3-1 to the Clippers. Literally, they figured out what they were doing on offense, and they just exploited them on defense 3 straight games, and they made no adjustments whatsoever because he swore that Kawhi Leonard was going to be enough to beat Yoke and beat Murray, and then they ended up getting a 40-piece and a 16, 22, 13 performance dropped on him, and then that was kind of the end of that whole era. So I know he can get very stagnant at times.
Yeah, I think there's a reason he has more blown playoff leads than any coach in history. He doesn't make adjustments at all, period. I mean, he just did it again. We were up 2-1 on the Atlanta Hawks. There was no reason for us to lose that series. And his adjustments are crazy. Like he was making no adjustments. And in game 6, Tyrese Maxey came in and stole the show and literally brought us back in the third quarter, and we won the game. And game 7, so Shake Milton did that in game 5. Tyrese Maxey did that in game 6. In game 7, he closes the game with he closes the game with George Hill.
I saw.
What? Bro, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen because he's obsessed with like older players with experience. He will not put the young guy out there. Even if this Maxey could have had 30 points in 3 quarters. There's no way he was sniffing the fourth quarter.
Yeah, George Hill hasn't been that kind of a player since, I don't know, Indiana. or something like that. Like he hasn't been that. So I remember when they took Maxey out of the game. And then the whole fourth quarter, the offense just plummeted the whole time. He just sat there. He just sat there and let it happen. So I remember y'all's misery because I felt bad because I watched that series get blown apart, and then obviously Trae Young was just eating the pick and roll off. So, look, I'm sorry, man. Like I've watched from afar, and I know that it's been frustrating.
Yeah. So I want to go back to. I want to switch over to football right now because how's somebody calling a number? Number's not even on the screen, bro. Somebody's calling the show. Did I put the number up? Anyway, I want your opinion on Jalen Hurts because you mentioned it really quickly that Eagles fans don't like
y'all are
Jalen
haters.
Hurts.
I think y'all are haters. All right, that's first and foremost. Jalen Hurts is a man. That dude went to Oklahoma. That dude went to Oklahoma, turned his career around. He gets drafted in the second round to the Eagles. He literally, right now, if Jalen Hurts was on the Broncos, he would be the best quarterback they've had since they had Peyton Manning in 2014. He went out, led y'all to the playoffs. Now I want to see it. I want to see this. I want to see this pick clip.
Look at it. Look at it. No, look at it. Look at it. This is what this guy does every single game, bro. This is the best offensive line in football right here. There's no pressure whatsoever. In this play specifically, Quez Watkins is running down the middle of the field wide open. This is this guy's problem. He will not stand in the pocket and throw the ball. And I've seen enough of it.
Balling the whole last 8 games of the season.
They were playing absolute garbage teams with fourth-string quarterbacks. The Washington football team's quarterback was on another team's practice squad 3 days before he played that game.
He's starting next year. He's a good player. Matter of fact, see, this is the thing. Let me address this, Philadelphia.
I think he's going to start next year because there's no other options. But he's terrible.
No problem. Y'all's GM drafted Jalen Reagor and all the little busts that y'all had at receiver, Nelson Aguilar and all that other stuff y'all went through. That was your GM. Y'all don't have a single receiving threat. Obviously, you had Devonta Smith now, who's a good player who played well. But like it ain't like he had like crazy help. And obviously, you had a great tight end in Dallas Goedert. He played well. Man, I think Jalen's going to be all right, man. Y'all need to stop hating on him.
Listen, his draft profile, all the things it says in his draft profile, okay, does not climb the pocket and read the field, leaves the pocket too early. His throws are late. He makes receivers reach back for the ball on simple slants. He made speedy receivers at Alabama and Oklahoma come back for the ball. And this entire season, that's all I've seen. If a guy's wide open down the field, it's underthrown almost every single time. I mean, just
Drew Lock.
Huh?
Would you rather have him or Drew Lock?
I'd rather have neither of those guys. Look at this player right here. I'm telling you right now. Look, he's standing in a clean pocket. The safety at the bottom of the screen bites on who is this over here? Either way, he bites down here. Quez Watkins is running down the middle of the field, and this dude just will not throw the ball. He won't do it. He hesitates and he runs. Like, dude. Why? Why are you running? Quez is over here. Bam, touchdown.
Yeah, that happened 3,000. That happened 3,144 passing yards and 16 touchdowns, and he was 61%. It's not great. He had an 87 rating. That's average. And then he ran for – how many yards did he run for last year?
Oh, I don't care about that. Oh, please don't tell me a quarterback's rushing stats. I hate it.
784 yards. That's not terrible. It's another 10 touchdowns.
I don't care if a quarterback ran for 2,000 yards. He's not winning a Super Bowl. I don't care. I don't want to hear quarterback's rushing stats. He's a running back. That's why he has great rushing stats. He's a running back that sometimes throws the ball.
I think y'all are spoiled because y'all are used to having great quarterback play with Donovan McNabb. We have had Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, old Joe Flacco, Brandon Allen, and Brett Rippon. And Jerry Jeudy had 0 touchdowns. 0 touchdowns last year because our quarterback play was so bad.
I like Jalen Hurts as a person. All I'm saying is they put the weapons on the team now. You got Devontae Smith, and this dude could have had 50. If he had a quarterback that could just launch the ball down the field, he would have had 1,500 receiving yards. You got one of the speediest guys in college football history with a quarterback that can't throw the ball far enough.
All fans that they had Jalen Hurts, they actually would have made the playoffs this year. We had worse quarterback play than you all. So when I hear y'all complaining, We lost 4 straight games. They ended the season on a 4-game losing streak and could have made the playoffs. We passed on Josh Allen and them. Y'all didn't do that. We did. So why have had to watch? We got Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert in the same division. We got to watch that mess happen every single weekend.
Listen, the Eagles were terrible in the beginning of the season because they were throwing the ball 50 times a game because Jalen Hurts you can't win a game like that. So once they switched it up, they realized we got a great offensive line. They started running the ball 55 times with 4 different running backs and dominating in the run game. That's how they won all the games they won. That's not going to work in the playoffs. Once you play a great team with a good defense that's going to force you to pass the ball, you're done.
Can you explain to me why Miles Sanders isn't the RB1 through the whole season and they don't do it until the end of the year?
I don't know exactly. There's some times where there's a wide open hole in the middle of the field and he does this weird like bounce it outside. He doesn't actually read the field that well. He's a big time he's a guy that could turn a 2-yard loss into a 50-yard touchdown. He's one of those guys, but I think down to down, he's not really that good at reading the holes and hitting the hole. And then when Gainwell came in, just bam. Gainwell's been better than Miles Sanders this entire season.
Bro, I'm tired of looking up the Philadelphia stats and looking up Boston Scott carries, Gainwell carries, Howard carries, and Miles Sanders carries. You drafted Miles Sanders in the 2nd round. I don't even know if he's good yet. I haven't got a chance to watch him for 8 games straight as being an RB1, and you can tell if he's bad or not yet. It's just I don't know.
Yeah, he's had a fumbling issue too since he's been here, and I'm pretty sure he came in this game against the Bucs and lost a fumble. Or maybe it was one of the games towards the end of the season, but he's always had a fumbling issue too. I think he's a little bit overrated because he has that big play potential, but I don't know. I was a huge Miles Sanders fan, but I'm not in the NFL today. I'm you can just plug running backs in here and there. I'm not like draft a superstar running back kind of guy anymore. I don't think the Cowboys had to draft Zeke where they drafted him. They could have Pollard, you just need a guy that can run through the hole.
Yeah, they could have passed on him, and they could have drafted Jalen Ramsey at 5 or 4 that year, and then they could have got Derrick Henry in the 2nd round. So yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. Well, anyway, anything else you want to cover, my man?
No, I'm sorry. I feel bad. I really do feel bad for 76ers, man. I want this situation to be resolved. I don't like watching bad basketball, and I know that's not fun. Not having it's not even injuries. I can deal with Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. being out. That's injuries. But just to literally have a player not playing just because they don't want to play, I know it's frustrating, man. So I do hope the best for y'all.
When you asked me if we would accept Ben Simmons back, the thing about it is that doesn't even matter because there's absolutely no way he would walk into this arena again. There's no way. And we can't even trade him to the Boston Celtics because if you want another fan base that's as crazy as we are, there's no way Ben Simmons could play for the Boston Celtics. He would get the first time he passed up an open 3, the stadium would be full of boos. I don't know, man. I really, it's hard for me to even see him playing basketball. That's the thing about it. I feel like you got to trade him now because he might just retire at the end of this season and not even play anymore. He seems so not just shook by playing an NBA game in front of fans, but he seems like he doesn't care either way. He seems like I'm cool, whatever.
I hope it gets resolved. I hope that hope that Embiid, continues to have great health. If you can get 70 games out of Embiid this year, 65 games out of Embiid this year, that would be amazing. So yeah, we'll see where we go from there.
All right, man.
By the way, y'all haven't played. We haven't seen Embiid and Jokic play since 2019. So they're supposed to play mid-March, I think March 14th. So I'm hoping we finally get that matchup. We have not seen it for almost 3 seasons now.
I mean, that's not a legitimate matchup. It's not like it's not like Jokic can guard Embiid. You're not saying that, right?
Guard Jokic. It's not like Embiid can guard Jokic. That's the point. They're not supposed. They're the best 2 bigs in the last several years, and they're 2 of the top 3 players in the league. I just want to see it happen. That's like LeBron versus Durant.
I agree with that. Jokic is a great facilitating big man. But all right, 1-on-1 you're not taking Jokic, right?
I mean, no one's on the court. They're just
just 1-on-1.
I mean, they're both great scorers. I don't understand what the issue is. That's See, this is the thing. This is the misconception that people have. They had the same misconception about LeBron James until later into his career. Jokic is literally one of the best scorers, and he's a top 4 scorer right now in the NBA. And he's been that way. He's way more efficient than literally everyone else in the NBA, including from the mid-range. So the problem is, like, they would not be able to guard each other because they're both great shooters. Like, Jokic's not missing. That's the thing. Like, he's not going to back and beat down and, like, punch, go bang on him or something like that. He's going to hit a soundboard
one-footed fadeaway, all that. Yeah,
soundboard shuffle over his head. He can hit 3-pointers. You're going to get floaters. That's what it's going to be. And then Embiid with the ball, he'll do what he does. But, like, they're both – I'm saying, like, when they play against each other, they both should have really good games. That's all I'm saying.
Jokic has, like, the highest release I think I've ever seen. Like, sometimes I'm like, I don't even know how that went in. Like, he releases that thing, like, behind his head sometimes, fading away off of 1 foot. He shot one from, like, 28 feet the other night. Like, Steph Curry range.
Yeah, against Memphis. He's had 2 of those this year from the logo.
Yeah, it's crazy for a guy that size, man.
Hold on, bro. Somebody said in the chat that this is where Denver fans get delusional. He called Embiid Kobe-esque earlier. Wait, so I can't even compliment Embiid? Like, I'm not saying that he's Joel and like he's Kobe Bryant, but that's the category of player he falls in. Now, I'm wrong for being high on Joe?
I don't know what he's trying to say, honestly. No, I think he's trying to say that you said Embiid is Kobe-esque, but then you said you would take Jokic one-on-one.
LeBron, but that's the thing. LeBron and Kobe would still go at each other. That's the thing. Like, they're both going to dominate the matchup either way.
Yeah, that's a good comparison because, like, I always say LeBron versus Jordan. I always say in a one-on-one game, I'm taking Jordan all day, every day. But if I'm building a franchise, a player that makes everybody around him better and can take a team of nobodies farther, I'm taking LeBron.
Appreciate it, man. We got Philly there. We got Philly there.
Yeah. But, yo, thanks for coming through, man. This is always fun, man. We'll do it again sometime. I mean, obviously, with everything that we said, Joel Embiid's obviously the MVP. But I wanted to let you get your Jokic stats off. I do want to ask you what is a Raptor?
I don't work for 538. That's not my thing at all. Raptor, again, is I don't even know, like, the metrics they all put in it, but all it does is evaluate your offensive and defensive output on a per-possession basis. And they come out at the end of the day saying, here's your offensive output. We all know that Joker is the best offensive player in the league by far, especially with Steph Curry just completely just plateauing right now as a player. There is no one else that's a better offensive player than he is from an all-around game standpoint. No one. So the thing is,
all-around game standpoint, okay.
He's literally one of the best 4 scorers in the league. He's the second best rebounder in the league. He's the best passer in the NBA, and he's one of the 4 or 5 best shooters all around in the NBA right now, based on his statistical profile. So literally, there's nothing you can do about him. That's why he's so great. So again, I think that Raptor measured all that stuff. They also measured defensive impact. Like I said, he's been a great defender this year. The metrics just like Joker's game, and they like the way he plays and like the way he impacts the game. Again, it's the same reason LeBron James projects higher on advanced statistics than Kobe Bryant did. It's just because of the way their games are played. Again, I know. Yeah, does that make sense at all?
Yeah, okay. I think that's what I mean. Like, I think if you're taking a player to build a team around, I'm going LeBron. But if I'm taking a one-on-one scorer, or if it's fourth quarter and I need an absolute bucket, nobody was stopping Jordan in those playoff games. You know what I mean?
LeBron has more clutch points and game-winning shots in the playoffs than Michael Jordan does. Though. That's the only problem.
Yeah. I'm on the LeBron side. When I have this argument, I argue for LeBron because, he's also never been swept in the first round. Jordan was swept twice. You know what I mean? And Jordan and Kobe, to me, are those 2 players that are such good one-on-one scorers. They will, but if they're on a bad team, they're putting up 55 points in a loss. You know what I mean? They were that kind of player. They, like Kobe Bryant on those last couple of LA teams, they weren't good. He would drop 45 and they lose. Like, LeBron's never been that kind of player. LeBron's going to give you 25, 10, and 12 and give you a fighting chance to win with any roster he has. Now, right now, the Lakers are looking great, but I think their main issue is Russell Westbrook over everything. I don't know why they traded a bunch of role players for Westbrook in the first place. We never even touched on that. What do you think of the Lakers right now?
I think so. DNVR asked me about this before the season started. I thought it was an awful move. Russell Westbrook, I was hoping that Jamal obviously will be healthy. I would love to see Jamal and Russell go at it in the playoffs so Jamal can bury him. He's a terrible shooter. He's a terrible defender. He's not efficient. He's a turnover monster. So, like, there's nothing he would do that would help that team. So I didn't get that trade at all. I mean, they were
Yeah,
supposed to help him during the regular season with LeBron, but it was just terrible.
yeah, I agree. I've never been a big Russell Westbrook. Even back when he was playing with Kevin Durant in OKC, and he was taking bad shots at the end of Game 7, and Durant standing there like, bro, Durant should have the ball right now. Like, you're not that guy. Just, he was always like that. So, yeah, I don't know why they did it either. But now I don't know what they're going to do because
What's Embiid's nickname, by the way? Like, what's his nickname? Like, he has a nickname that y'all call him?
Embiid,
Yeah.
I don't really know anymore. I think people still say the process, but I don't even say that anymore. I'm annoyed by that. Like, well, last time I was at a Sixers game, I was at one of the games against Atlanta in the playoffs last year, and they were still chanting "trust the process," and we were sitting there like, "Shut up! Stop saying that! Like, the process is over, bro. It's been 6 years." Yeah, I don't know.
So, do you admit that Joker is the best nickname in the NBA?
MVP, that's his nickname. Yeah, I agree. I agree, Kane. Yeah, Joker's a great nickname.
Let me respect that. I agree. The MVP is a great nickname for Joel Embiid, but it's the actual title belongs to Nikola Jokic.
Oh, bro, thanks for coming through, man. We'll do it again, man. I appreciate it. Later.